All right, I'm here today. This is not the normal setup. I'm on my own. Kevin's not here filming with the good stuff. I'm just GoPro, handheld. But I'm here with my buddy Chris Milanowski outside Milwaukee. And we're gonna do a walk around video on his Born Free bike this year. And there's a lot to this. I mean, we can't really we're not calling this a K model or a WR. What are you calling this thing?
I'm calling it a WRKR.
WRKR. Okay. So WRKR, normally it should have a side valve top end on it. It's got a K model top end on it. But aside from the glaring things, like walk us through like the obvious stuff first. Like start with frame and go from there.
Well, I built a frame out of chromoly tubing. It's got stock geometry. The seat post was 3D printed out of laser sintered powdered metal, so it's steel. It's good. It's structural. I bent up the down tube by making a die to stamp it. Same thing with the top tube. So everything, again, stock geometry, but just reworked out of chromoly. So it's 065 for most of the chromoly tubing. The rear chain stays are 085. Everything's welded together. Nothing's brazed on it like it was originally.
Yep.
And the neck was reworked from a Cervicar chopper at one point. I got rid of the speedometer drive and I wanted to expose the backbone and just keep it simple and sleek.
Finish is obviously nickel plated.
Yeah, everything's nickel plated. The frame is. Every component of the frame was polished before I welded it together. Then it was repolished and then nickel plated.
So, obviously early flat track influence on this thing.
Yeah. It was originally made to be a real race bike. It is a real race bike. Original WR gas tanks, original 48 WR lower end, and a real 52 KR top end. So, and a narrow clutch basket.
All the real stuff. Yeah.
The trees are modeled after the original 52K forged steel triple clamps, but they're machined out of 7075 aluminum.
Yep.
They're 5/8 wider than the original to accommodate the wider dirt track tire.
Yep.
And they're 2 pounds lighter each than the original steel triple clamps. So there's some extra performance built into this bike.
Nice.
I added a bunch of little modern touches to it.
I mean, obviously one thing that stands out is the pipes and the natural swoopy bends like we see from a lot of Japanese builders, Japanese sport bike builders are doing a lot of that stuff. Talk about the process or whatever with that.
So the pipes were actually bent in this garage here. They're titanium, 1 3/4 titanium, and we sand bent them. We filled them with sand, and we capped one end, filled them with sand, and then pounded a piece of wood into the backside of it to compress the wood.
Mm-hmm.
And before we bent it, we took a piece of brake line and bent it to the contour that we wanted to match, and we used that as our guide as we were bending it. So we secured it in a fixture on the welding table.
Yep.
And then just slowly heated it up. We barely got a cherry red, and it just bent so nice, and it kept the form of it. And you had to bend it 2 ways too, but heavily influenced from racing exhaust in Europe and
Yep.
Japanese guys that do it. If they
Yep.
can do it, why couldn't we? So
Exactly.
my friend Connor helped me out with that to make sure that we got that right.
So M53.
M53A1.
Yep.
Carburetor. It's been nickel plated. I guess it's a good carburetor to use. It doesn't have a bomb sight, but it is, KR, K
Yep.
model carburetor to use.
Go ahead.
The cylinders, the original cylinders, where I think 13 fins were broken on them. I had to replace those fins. I believe most of that's on the opposite side, but after I had them fixed, I had them acid dipped and then nickel plated. So everything, again, electroless nickel plated.
Nice. Foot controls are of your design?
Yeah, the foot controls, the clutch pedal is actually a K model brake pedal that I repurposed. Again, continuing with the theme of KKR
Yep.
parts melded with the WR. I like a shorter, stubbier foot peg, and I wanted them to match the OEM style grips. So I had a machined to match the grips. The kicker pedal as well matches that.
Sweet. What's up with the seat?
The seat is modeled after a. I wanted the seat to be agile like a dirt bike seat,
Mm-hmm.
but still have the classic stylings of original WR with the solo seat with a P pad. So I kept the vertical edge on the back, and just it had to flow with the rest of the bike. So this is what I came up with.
Lots of room to move up and back.
Yeah.
Transfer weight.
Yeah.
But fits really nice, like with the split tanks, like just flows right into the seat,
For sure.
into the fender. I mean the reveal under here is really nice, like with this piping line that goes down and follows the fender. Yeah.
Yeah, I was somewhat worried about having an excessive gap, but it all worked out to where if your eyes just drawn out, it actually gives you a little bit more room to see some of the details underneath.
Yeah,
I started with a wire frame, and then I used a planishing hammer and a linear stretching die to get it to the shape that I wanted. And then I had Fat Lucky Upholstery in Arizona take care of it, cover it.
It's awesome. Talk about, let's see. So finish on the motor is vapor blasted?
The finish on the motor is actually glass bead blasted.
Okay.
And washed. And yeah, that's it.
The vertical mag or timer's out, and you got a front mount WR style.
Yeah, so the timing cover on here is an original 5051 Peekaboo timing cover. So it has a access cover here to change your vernier timing on that front mount. So they also had a provision for a vertical mag as well. And then we machined up an acrylic timing cover just to kind of showcase that vernier gear.
Very nice, very nice. Ride controls in there.
Yeah, that the dampener is a combination of the original WL bracket and then the K model components. And the knob was actually scaled down and machined to look like the original but be smaller and fit better inside of there.
Yep. Yeah, the originals were, when everything slimmed down like this, they did look a little big. Like
yeah, they're over 2 inches in diameter, so we shrunk that down.
Very nice. I mean, this thing was definitely a crowd favorite at Born Free. I know you built it for Born Free this year as an invited builder. What was your what's up with that? Like, what was your the highs and lows of it for you?
The highs and lows were definitely getting invited to build, first time builder for Born Free, and just a chance to showcase and stretch my abilities, challenge myself to do a little bit more. And I was building this bike a little bit beforehand, and I decided to build a full frame. I decided to do titanium exhaust, make the triple clamps. Like it really provided me an opportunity to really challenge myself this year.
Go the extra mile.
Yeah. The lows, I'd say the biggest part was just working with vendors on plating and polishing to get done in a timely manner, and also getting out there. The 2,300 mile trip was pretty treacherous with the trailer, but I'm glad it's done, and it was a hell of a time getting the bike together and getting it out to Born Free.
Yeah, everything looks, I mean, this thing, the simplicity of it, I think obviously, like, a lot of people don't know, your oil tank is over here on this, so there's no oil tank in the traditional spot, but with the seat gap and the no oil tank and the super clean pipes and the finishes almost look sort of tonal. and the paint is sort of like almost a green hue of the titanium color or of the nickel plate. It just really gives this thing like a, I said this at Born Free, but it's sort of like people that know Photoshop and other things, it gives it like sort of Gaussian blur, like it's sort of the colors almost kind of go together and like create like a really soft, like really nice, in my eyes anyway, really nice sort of like tonal color palette on this. I really like it. I mean, this is one of the bikes I voted for. I was also an invited builder this year, and I definitely voted for this bike in my top 3. I mean, I don't necessarily build stuff like this, but there's always like, I appreciate it. I know the work that goes into these things.
Thank you, Oliver.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a really clean, really nicely done.
Yeah,
like all the little small details that again look so factory, and that's, you know, that's really part of it.
All of the steel parts on here are nickel plated, so whether it's every last nut, washer, bolt was blasted and nickel plated. This whole clutch assembly, even the cable inside is nickel plated. All the hardware is 1038 CP bolts. Just the attention to those details is,
yeah, I don't know if you can see it in there, but yeah, CPs.
Yeah.
For people that know.
The seat post casting as well has is embossed. There's a oak leaf printed directly into it. With my little.
See if I can get that in there, but yeah, super nice.
It's got my name in there, and it's just the oak leaf. Cool stuff.
Very cool.
I narrowed and bobbed an original fender, trimmed up the skirts, hemmed the edge back over, and kept the styling of the original fender, but shrunk it down. The original WR fender just looks pretty utilitarian without any skirt and just a whacked off bobbed. And so I wanted to keep some styling built back into the fender, and then I re-riveted the fender stay and the fender mount up front back onto it. The rear stand I made too in the last week of the build, and had that nickel plated as well. Original WR 37 tooth sprocket that is nickel plated. The rims and hubs are anodized black along with the spacers, so the only thing painted on this bike are the tanks and the rear fender. Everything else is plated, and the foot pegs are black oxide coated. So
nice.
Just, I like factory finishes, and nothing is rattle canned or.
Yeah, and that's brakeless, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to the original flat trackers that were all brakeless. But yeah, I think I mean, you nailed it on this one. This is
thanks, Oliver.
really nicely done. And
check out the primary cover.
Let's see the primary cover.
So the primary cover is a one-off cast narrow clutch primary cover that I modeled up. I had a pattern 3D printed, and then I dropped it off at the Sandcasters, and they casted it. I really wanted to model it and pull a bunch of design from the like MPD.
Mm-hmm. Even the early like Triumph covers, Carl's covers, and stuff like that. Yeah,
Sportster covers, and just have it really. I don't know, casting primary is pretty cool, so I wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it matches the K model heads and the whole thing. You know, it's like, it's very. It does. I mean, if you didn't know, you would think that was like, you know, a WR race part or something like that, like a factory piece.
And actually being cast, it's funny, like overhearing people talking about it and looking at it, they think it's just a K model because it's a casted primary. It almost looks like a unit construction because they're not looking close enough or just don't know better.
Yeah. Very nice.
The handlebars as well. Bobby Good Times and I bent them up down in Chicago. It was a fun experience driving down there for the evening, and we bent up one side, slid the risers on, and then bent up the second side with the risers in the middle, and then I was able to tack and then silver solder them in place just for a clean look. All right, I'm Chris Milanowski, and this is my 48 WRKR bike that I built for Born Free. I'm in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Thanks for checking it out.